This is the 1 to 3 method of Quilt-as-you-go. I have 2 blocks at the top, 2 blocks at the bottom, so I have 2 sections. And one of the sections I have quilted all the way to the edge, and the other section I've stopped about 1.25 inches away, and I have an open edge, and you'll see why soon. To join the sections together, put the open section on top of the other section so that you can separate the batting and backing, and you can easily pin one layer of the top section to all 3 layers of the underneath section. That's why I've given it the name, the 1 to 3 method. Now we're going to sew along that seam with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you can see that the top is sewn together, and at the moment the batting and backing is loose. Open out to the top and press the seam. So the next step is to trim the batting. So use a ruler and just push up against the ridge that's formed by the quilt, and you can mark a line, and the next step is to trim on that marked line. Now you can see that the batting is butting up against the edge of the seam allowance. So the next step is to join the batting onto the edge of the seam allowance. So what's going to happen is we're just going to position the batting joining tape just next to the stitching line of the seam, and we're just going to place that on so that it covers both the seam and the batting. And then to protect that nylon tape, we're just going to cover that with the backing fabric, and we're going to use the iron to press. Now it's just a matter of folding under the backing fabric so that it meets the stitching line. Mark a line that's 3/8 of an inch away from the raw edge of the loose backing fabric. Now fold over on the marked line and press. Now lay the folded edge over the join to cover the stitching line, and it should cover that stitching line by about 1/8 of an inch. Now turn to the front and pin in the ditch of the seam. And then before we sew, flip over and double check that those pins are catching in the folded edge by about 1/8 of an inch. And now stitch in the ditch of the seam. So that's how you do the 1 to 3 method of Quilt-as-you-go. If you'd like to learn more, I have a book called the Quilt-as-you-go Companion. We also have lots of tutorials on YouTube, and we also have our brand new magazine, which is called Patternful Magazine, and Barbara's beautiful Storm at Sea quilt will be featuring on the front cover.